Hey, Pete Hoekstra. Charlie Angus here in the nation's capital. Boy, Pete, you have really managed to piss Canadians off. It's unprecedented. I have never seen anything quite like it. You know, since Ben Masilas and I posted the interview we did about how much you piss people off, we've had over 1.5 million views. That's unprecedented. People are really angry, Pete. They're tired of your gaslighting. They're tired of your attacks. You know, I'd offered to go out for beers, and I thought I'd come down here to the American Embassy and, see if you wanted to go out and talk. But how the hell do you get into this place? You know, you talk about architecture in Ottawa. You could talk about modernist. You could talk about romantic. You could talk brutalist. But this is kind of Darth Vader-ish. There's something evil empire about this. It's kind of like a battleship that's been planted right in the middle of the leafy streets of our country. And there you are, hanging out up there someplace. I wore my hat and everything to try and entice you out. But I've realized, Pete, that it's probably a much bigger issue than me just going out for beers. Because we got to actually talk about how the hell did you get the job of ambassador in the first place? I look at your resume, and it's pretty dismal. Okay, so you ran as a classic Maga Tea Party loyalist, running on anti-Chinese, anti-Muslim sentiment, big gun lover you, and of course against women's rights. And all those things are really obnoxious to Canadians. We find it offensive. But okay, we could still work with you. But then we look at what kind of experience you bring. I mean, you were notorious in Washington for spreading falsehoods about weapons of mass destruction that led to the war in Iraq that cost thousands of lives. Your misrepresentations were so bad that the Pentagon actually had to step in and say, no, you were making stuff up. Then what about that website that you were involved in creating that the New York Times pointed out could be used to help people create nuclear weapons, and then you had to shut that down? Whoa, that's really bad judgment, Pete. But then you got the job of being ambassador to the Netherlands. How could you blow it in the Netherlands? They're such nice people. You're related to lots of them. But then you went to the Netherlands and started spouting off anti-Muslim rhetoric and saying all kinds of crazy-ass shit about how there was no-go zones for white people like you and how people were being dragged out of cars and set on fire. And the people of the Netherlands, of course, were pretty pissed that you were doing that, and they called you out. And then you accused them of fake news and lying. Oh, that's just such a tired old trope, Pete. And then you were forced to apologize. Not a good look for an ambassador. And then the word got out that you were hosting. Now, is this true? You were hosting far-right parties and doing fundraisers in the American Embassy? I'm not a diplomat, but I think that's a breach of international law. So I've got to ask you, Pete, who are you hosting parties for here? Is it Diagolon? Is it Canada's Proud Boys? Is it that MAGA separation movement in Alberta that appeared the day Donald Trump said that we didn't have a right to the country? Are you partying with them upstairs? I'm asking you this, Pete, because you're clearly unfit for the job. You would clearly fail any test of public service. And yet here you are as the representative for Donald Trump in dealing with America's #1 trading partner. And what have you been doing? You've been lighting gas all over the fire and trying to pick fights with us. And people are done with that. So, Pete, I got to ask you, if you're going to stay on the job, I think you need to talk to Canadians and say how the hell you got the job in the first place, why you think you're fit for it, because we're really getting to the point, Pete, Canadians are patient, but we're really fed up. And we think that you were sent there just to poke and gaslight and cause problems. And we think maybe it's time we started thinking about giving you the bum's rush. Seriously, Pete. I'm Charlie. But hey, like I said, you want to go for a beer and talk about it? I'm around anytime. And, hey, I'd love a tour of this great giant fortress that you hide out in. Even if you I'll just get a tour of the first floor. That's okay. I don't need to know where all the bodies are buried. Anyways, thanks so much, Pete.